Masterclass: Building a Production-Grade Quiz Application with Python and Flask. Part 1. 1. Introduction and Architectural Philosophy. This document serves as the first half of a definitive guide to constructing a robust, scalable, and fully functional quiz application. We will not merely write code, we will engineer a solution. We will use Flask, a microweb framework, SQL Alchemy, an object relational mapper, Flask Login for session management, and Flask WTF for secure form handling. The why behind the stack. Flask, chosen for its flexibility. Unlike Django, which enforces a specific structure, Flask allows us to design our application flow exactly how we need it for a custom quiz engine. SQL Alchemy. This abstracts raw SQL queries into Python objects. This is crucial for security, preventing SQL injection, and maintainability. Jinja 2. The templating engine that allows us to inject Python logic directly into HTML. The application architecture, MVC pattern. We will strictly follow the Model View Controller, MVC pattern, adapted for Flask, often called Model View Template. 1. Models, PY. The blueprint of our database, users, quizzes, questions. 2. View, templates. What the user sees, HTML or CSS. 3. Controller, routes. The logic that connects the user's input to the database. 2. Project directory structure. Before writing a single line of code, we must establish a professional directory structure. This structure separates concerns, making the app easier to debug and expand. Create a folder named Flask Quiz App. Inside, set up the following hierarchy: plaintext, Flask Quiz App, or .app, or init. PY Application Factory, models. PY Database models, forms. PYWT forms definitions. Routes. PY View functions, controllers. Static or CSS, JavaScript, images. Style. CSS. Templates or HTML files. Base. HTML. Index. HTML. Login. HTML. Register. HTML. Dashboard. HTML. Create quiz. HTML. Take quiz. HTML. Take quiz. HTML. Results. HTML. Config. PY configuration variables. Run. PY entry point. Requirements. TXT dependencies. 3. Environment, setup, and configuration. 3. 1. Virtual environment. Isolate your project dependencies. This prevents version conflicts with other Python projects on your machine. Terminal commands, bash. Create the virtual environment. Python, -mvenv, venv. Activate it, Windows. venv scripts activate. Activate it, Mac or Linux. Source. venv or bin or activate. 3. 2 dependencies. Create a requirements. TXT file. We will use specific versions to ensure stability, though generally, the latest versions are fine. File. Requirements. TXT. Plaintext. Flask. Flask SQL file alchemy. Flask login. Flask-KSWTF. Email validator. Ruksoig. Install them, bash. Pip install -r requirements. TXT. 3. Configuration, config. PY. We need a centralized place to manage our app settings, such as the database location and security keys. File, config. PY. Python. Import, OS. Get the base directory of the project. Base dir equals os.path. ABS path, os.path. Dir name. File, class config. Base configuration class. Contains default settings for the application. SECRETKEY, is used by Flask to sign session cookies and protect against CSRF. In production, this should be a long random string hidden in environment variables. secretkey equals OS environ, get, secret key, or hard to guess string for dev only. SQLALCHEMY tells Flask-SQAlchemy where the database file is located. We are using SQLite for simplicity, app.db, which is a file-based database. SQLALCHEMY equals OS environ, get, DATABASEURL, or DACE, SQLite, or tutorhar, or plus OS, .path, join, bastier, app, db. Disable the modification tracking system to save memory. We don't need to know every time an object changes in memory, only when we commit. SQLALCHEMYTRACKMODIFICATIONS equals false. Deep dive, the secret key. The secret key is critical. Flask uses it to cryptographically sign the session cookie. If an attacker possesses this key, they can forge session cookies and impersonate any user, including admins. Never commit a production secret key to GitHub. 4. The data layer, database modeling. This is the backbone of the application. If the database schema is flawed, the app will fail. We need to design a relational database that handles 1. Users who take or make quizzes. 2. Quizzes, titles, descriptions. 3. Questions linked to a specific quiz. 4. Options, multiple choices linked to a question. 5. Results, tracking who scored what. File, app or models. Py. Python. From datetime import. Datetime. From Werkzeug. Security import. Generate password hash. Check password hash. From Flask login import. User mixin. From app import. DHAP, login manager. User model. Class user. User mixin. DHAP. Model. Represents a user of the application. Inherits from user mixin to provide default implementations for Flask login, IS authenticated, IS active, etc. Table name equals user. ID equals DB. Column, DB. Integer, primary key equals true. Username equals DB. Column, DB. String, 64. Index equals true. Unique equals true. Nullable equals false. Email equals DB. Column, DB. String, 120. Index equals true. Unique equals true. Nullable equals false. Password hash equals DB. Column, DB. String, 128. ISAdmin equals DB. Column, DB. Boolean, default equals false. Relationships. Quizzes created links to quizzes this user made, if admin. Quizzes equals DB. Relationship, quiz, backref equals author, lazy equals dynamic. Results links to scores this user has achieved. Results equals D if igb. Relationship, results, backref equals student, lazy equals dynamic. Def set password, self, password. Hashes the password before storing it. Self, password hash, equals generate password hash, password. Def check password, self, password. Checks if the provided password matches the hash. Return check password hash, self, password hash, password. Def reper, self, dot return f, user self, username greater than. Flask login user loader function. At login manager, dot load user, dot return user. Query, det int, ed, quiz model, class quiz, dzb, model, represents a single quiz entity, table name equals quiz, dapreter game equals quiz, id equals db, column, db, integer, primary key equals true, title equals db, column, db, string, 120, nullable equals false, description equals db, column, db, Text, nullable equals true. Timestamp equals db. Column, db. Datetime, index equals true. Default equals datetime. UTC now. Userid equals db. Column, db. Integer, db. Foreign key, user.id. Relationships. A quiz has many questions. Cascade equals all. Delete orphan ensures that. If a quiz is deleted, all its questions are also deleted. Questions equals db. Relationship. Question, backref equals quiz. Lazy equals dynamic. Cascade equals all. Delete orphan. Results equals db. Relationship. Result, backref equals quiz taken. Lazy equals dynamic. Defrepper, self. Return f. Quiz self. Title greater than. Question, model. Class, question, db. Model represents a single question within a quiz. Table name equals question. ID equals dlmzb. Column, dlmzb. Integer, primary key equals true. Text equals db. Column, dlmz. B. String, 300. Nullable equals false. Quizid equals db. Column, db. Integer, db. Foreign key, quiz. Bot ID. Relationships. A question has many options. Choices. Options equals db. Relationship. Option. Backref equals question. Lazy equals dynamic. Cascade equals all. Delete orphan. Defrepper. Har has a dash. Self. Return f. Question self. Text. 30. Greater than. Option model. Class option. Duragi. Bolios. D. Balyoi. Bali. Model. Represents a multiple choice option for a question. Table name equals option. ID equals D. Bayo. Column, durayo. Bayo. Integer, primary key, equals true. Text equals D. B. Column, db. String, 100. Nullable equals false. Is correct equals D. B. Column, db. Boolean, default equals false. Questioned equals D. B. Column, db. Integer, db. Foreign key, question. I did. Defrepper, cocker, self. Return, option, self. Text greater than. Result, model. Class, result, D. Cocker, class, result, D. Cocker, predicted. Model, stores the score a user achieved on a specific quiz. Table name equals result. ID equals D. B. Column, D. B. Integer, primary key equals true. Score equals D. B. Column, D. B. Float, nullable equals false. Storing percentage or raw score. Date taken equals db. Column, db. Datetime, default equals datetime. UTC now, userid equals db. Column, db. Integer, db. Foreign key, user.id. Quizid equals db. Column, db. Integer, db. Foreign key, quiz.id. Defrepper, self. Return f. Result user, self. Userid, quiz, self. Quizid score, self. Score greater than. Logic breakdown, database relationships. 1. db. Foreign key, this creates the physical link between tables. For example, question. Quizid stores the ID of the quiz it belongs to. 2. db. Relationship. This is a SQL Alchemy magic tool. It doesn't modify the database schema directly. Instead, it allows Python to navigate the relationship. Example: if you have a quiz object myQuiz, you can access all its questions simply by typing myquiz questions.all. This handles the complex SQL join query behind the scenes. 3. Cascade equals all, delete orphan. This is a crucial integrity constraint. If an admin deletes a quiz, we do not want orphan questions floating in the database attached to nothing. This setting ensures that when a parent quiz is deleted, all children questions are automatically annihilated. 4. Password hashing. We never store passwords in plain text. We use worksoy.security to hash them. A hash is a one-way transformation. You can turn a password into a hash, but you cannot turn a hash back into a password. To verify login, we hash the input and compare it to the stored hash. 5. The application factory, init, py. Using the application factory pattern is a best practice. Instead of creating the app object globally, we create a function that builds it. This allows us to create multiple instances of the app. Example: one for testing, one for production with different configurations. File, app, or init. Py. Python. From Flask, import Flask. From config, import config. From Flask SQL Alchemy, import SQL Alchemy. From Flask login, import login manager. Initialize extensions, unbound to any specific app yet. DB equals SQL Alchemy. Login manager equals login manager. Configuration for login manager. Login manager. Login view equals login. The function name of the login route, login manager. Login message equals: please log in to access this page. Login manager. Login message category equals info.def. Create app. Config class equals config. Factory function to create and configure the Flask application. App equals Flask. Name.app. Config. From object. Config class. Initialize extensions with the app. db.initApp. App. Login manager. bat. initApp. App. Import and register the routes. We do this inside the factory to avoid circular imports. Because routes, py needs app, but app is created here. With app context. From app import routes, models. Create database tables if they don't exist. dpb, create all. Return app. 6. Entry point, run. py. This is the file you actually execute to start the server. It imports the factory and runs it. File, run. py. Python. From app import create app.app equals create app. If name equals main, debug equals true, allows auto reload when you change code. Never use debug equals true in a production environment exposed to the public.app. Run, debug equals true. 7. Form validation, forms. py. We use Flask-WTF to handle forms. 1. CSRF protection. It automatically inserts a hidden token to prevent cross-site request forgery attacks. 2. Validation. It handles checks. Example: is this email valid? Do passwords match on the server side, which is more secure than client-side JS validation? File, app, or forms. py. Python. From Flask WTF import Flask form. From WT forms, import string field, password field, submit field, boolean field, text area field. From WT forms, validators import data required, length, email, equal to, validation error. From app.models import user, authentication forms, class registration form, Flask form, username equals string field, username, validators equals data required, length, min equals 2, max equals 20, email equals string field, email, validators equals data required, email.password equals password field, password, validators equals data required, confirm password equals password field, confirm password, validators equals data required. Equal to, password.submit equals submit field, sign up, def, validate username, self, username. Custom validator to check if username exists. User equals user.query. Filter by, username equals username, dot data. First, if user, raise validation error, That username is taken. Please choose another. Def validate email, self, email. Custom validator to check if email exists. User equals user. Query, filter by, email equals email, dot data. First, if user. Raise validation error, that email is already registered. Class login form, Flask form. Email equals string field, email. Validators equals data required. Email. Password equals password field. Password. Validators equals data required. Remember equals Boolean field, remember me. Submit equals submit field, login. Quiz management forms. Class quiz form, Flask form. Title equals string field. Quiz title. Validators equals data required. Description equals text area field. Description. Submit equals submit field. Create quiz. Note, we will handle question or option addition dynamically via logic, rather than a static WTF form for simplicity in Part 2, or use a complex field list if we want strictly WTF. For this tutorial, we will use a hybrid approach in Part 2. Deep dive, custom validators. Look at validate username inside registration form. WT Forms automatically runs any method starting with validate field name greater than. When a user hits sign up, 1. WT Forms checks standard validators, data required. 2. It runs validate username. 3. This queries the database, user.query.filterby. 4. If a user exists, it raises validation error. This error is automatically caught and sent back to the HTML template to be displayed next to the form field. This provides immediate, secure feedback. 8. The controller, basic routes, and authentication routes. PY, Part A. In this section of Part 1, we will set up the skeleton of our routing and handle the full authentication cycle: file, app, or routes. PY, Python. From Flask import render template, URL for flash, redirect, request, abort. From app import D. B. Note, in a real factory pattern, app isn't globally available here easily without blueprints. However, since we did from app import routes, inside the app context in init, we can use from Flask import current app as app for configuration access if needed. But for routes, we usually use blueprints. To keep this simple and strictly follow the standard popular packages without over-engineering, we will use the app instance created via circular import hack in init. PY. Better for this tutorial, define a blueprint. Let's stick to the simplest method that works for beginners. We will use from Flask import current app where needed, but we need to register routes to the app instance. Correction for robustness. To make this code strictly runnable with the factory pattern used above, we should actually use a blueprint. Let's refactor slightly to use a blueprint called main. From Flask import blueprint. Quetzdante from Flask login import login user. Current facer. Log out user. Login required. Quetza from app. Models import user. Quiz. Question, option, result. Quetza from app. Forms import registration form. Login form. Quiz form. Define the blueprint. BP equals blueprint, main, name, at BP route or dot, at BP route or home, def index, landing page. Return render template, index. HTML. Authentication routes. At BP route or register, methods equals get pos dot def register. If currentisr. IHELIA authenticated, return redirect. URL for main. .index.form equals registration form.pf form. Validate on submit. Hash logic is inside the user model. User equals user, username equals form. Username. Data. Email equals form. Email equals form. Email data. Tattoo user. Set password. Form. Password. Data. Add to D. B. D. B. Top form. Session. Add. User. Commit. Flash. Your account has been created. You can now log in. Success. Return redirect. URL for main.login. Return render template. Register. HTML. Title equals register. Form equals form. At BP. Route or login. Methods equals get, post, def login, if current user. IS authenticated. Return redirect. URL for main. Indexed.form equals login form. .if form. Validate on submit. User equals user. .query. Filter by. Email equals form. Email.data. First, check if user exists and password is correct. If user and user, check password. Form. Password. Data. Logging user. User remember equals form. Remember. Data. Handle the next argument. Redirect to where they were trying to go. Next page equals request. Args. Get. Next. Return redirect. Next page. If next page else redirect. URL for main.index.else. Flash. Login unsuccessful. Please check email and password. Danger. Return render template. Login. HTML. Title equals login. Form equals form. At BP.route. Or logout. Def logout. Logout. Logout user. Return redirect. URL for main.index. Critical update to app or init. PY. Because we just introduced a blueprint in routes. PY. We must register it in the factory function. Update your app or init. PY. Function create app. Python. Inside create app. Import and register the blueprint. From app.routes. Import bp as main bp.app. Register blueprint. Main bp.with app. App context. Create database tables. DB. Create all.return app. Understanding the logic flow. The login process. Get request. User navigates to login. The login function runs.form. Validate on submit is false because it's a GUID. The login HTML template is rendered. 2. Post request. User fills info and clicks submit. The browser sends a post request to or login. 3. Validation form. Validate on submit. Captures the post data and runs validators. 4. Verification. We query the DB for the email. If found, we use user. Check password. Input password. 5. Session creation. Loginizer. User is the magic function from Flask login. It creates a secure session on the server and sends a cookie to the user's browser. Now, current user in Flask will refer to this specific logged-in user for all subsequent requests. 6. Redirection. We check request IRGs. Get. Next. If a user tried to access or dashboard without logging in, Flask login kicked them to login but added next equals %2f dashboard to the URL. This logic ensures that after login, they are sent back to the dashboard, not the home page. Part 1. Summary and transition. We have successfully engineered the backbone of our quiz app. Database. We have a robust schema handling users, quizzes, questions, and results. Security. Passwords are hashed. Forms are CSRF protected. Auth. Users can register, log in, and log out. Structure. We are using a scalable application factory plus blueprint pattern. What is missing? The actual quiz part. We have the models, but no way to interact with them visually. In Part 2, we will cover 1. The admin dashboard, creating quizzes and adding questions or options dynamically. 2. The quiz engine, the logic for rendering questions, capturing answers, and calculating scores. 3. The templates, writing the HTML or Jinja 2 code to display everything beautifully. 4. Final deployment, how to run the finished product. Please proceed to Part 2 for the front-end implementation and core business logic. End of Part 1. Do you want me to generate Part 2 now? This is Part 2 of 2. In this section, we will build the user interface, front-end, implement the core logic for creating and taking quizzes, and finalize the application for execution. Masterclass. Building a production-grade quiz application, Part 2. 9. The front-end. Jinja 2 templates. We will use Jinja 2 inheritance to avoid repeating code. We create a base HTML file that contains the common structure, HTML head, navbar, flash messages, footer. All other pages will extend this base. Directory, app or templates or 9. 1. The base layout, base, HTML. This file sets up Bootstrap via CDN for styling and handles the navigation logic showing login versus logout buttons based on authentication status. File, app, or templates or base. HTML, HTML. Doc type, HTML greater than. HTML lang equals n greater than. Head greater than. Metachar set equals UTF-8 greater than. Meta name equals viewport content equals width equals device width. Initial scale equals 1. 0 greater than. Title greater than % if title %. Title Flask quiz %else Flask quiz app end of % or title greater than. Link href equals rel equals style sheet greater than. Style greater than. Body padding top 60px background color f8 f9 fa. Card margin bottom 20px box shadow 04px 6px RGBA 0 0 0 0 1 or style greater than or head greater than body greater than. Nav class equals navbar expand L G navbar dark B G dark fixed top greater than. Div class equals container greater than. A class equals navbar dash brand href equals URL for main.index greater than quizmaster or a greater than. Button class equals navbar dash toggler type equals button data B s toggle equals collapse data B s target equals navbar nav greater than. Span class equals navbar toggler icon greater than or span greater than or button greater than. Div class equals collapse navbar collapse ID equals navbar nav greater than. UL class equals navbar nav ms auto greater than % if currentisor is authenticated %. Ally class equals nav item greater than a class equals nav link href equals URL for main. Dashboard greater than dashboard or greater than or li greater than. Ally class equals nav item greater than a class equals nav link href equals URL for main. Create quiz greater than create quiz or greater than or li greater than. Ally class equals nav item greater than a class equals nav link href equals URL for main. Logout greater than logout currentisor username or greater than or li greater than. Else Lie class equals nav item greater than a class equals nav link href equals URL for main. Login greater than login or greater than or li greater than. Li class equals nav item greater than a class equals nav link href equals URL for main. Register greater than register or greater than or li greater than. End of or ul greater than or div greater than or div greater than or nav greater than. Div class equals container mount for greater than. With messages equals get flashed messages. With categories equals true. If messages for category message in messages Div class equals alert. Alert category greater than message or div greater than message or div greater than dot. End for end with end with block content end block or div greater than dot. Script src equals greater than dot or body greater than dot or html greater than dot. 9. 2 authentication pages. We need simple forms for login and register. Notice how we use form hidden tag. This generates the CSRF token we discussed in part 1. File, app, or templates or login. HTML. HTML. Extends base. HTML %, block content %. Div class equals row justify content center greater than. Div class equals call a Talibanan D6 greater than. Div class equals card greater than. Div class equals card header B, G primary text white greater than. Login or div greater than. Div class equals card body greater than. Form method equals parsed action equals greater than. Form, hidden tag, div class equals b3 greater than. Form, email, dot label, class equals form dash label, dot form. Email, class equals form dash control, % for error in form. Email, errors %. Span class equals text danger greater than, or span greater than, %, n for %, or div greater than. Div class equals mb3 greater than. Form dot password, dot label class equals form dash label dot form dot password, class equals form control, dot form dash control, or div greater than. Div class equals mb3 form check, greater than, form. Remember, class equals form dash check dash input dot form. Remember, class equals form dash check dash label, or div greater than dot. Div class equals dgrid greater than dot form. Submit, class equals btn primary, or div greater than dof, or form greater than dof, or div 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 greater than dof, %, and block %. File, app or templates or register. HTML, similar structure, just adding username or confirm password fields. For brevity, assume it mirrors login. HTML, with the extra fields from registration form. 10. Advanced backend logic, quiz management. Now we return to app or routes. PY to add the core functionality, creating quizzes, adding questions, and taking quizzes. 10. 1. The dashboard. The dashboard acts as the central hub. It displays available quizzes to take and, if you are the creator, quizzes you can edit. Append to, app, or routes. PY. Python add BP root or dashboard. At login required. Def dashboard. Fetch all quizzes from DB, quizzes equals quiz dot. Query. Order B. Quiz, timestamp, dot desk. All. Fetch user's own results. My results equals result. Query. Filter by, userid equals current user. Mutate, order B. Result. Date taken, desk all. Return render template, dashboard. HTML. Quizzes equals quizzes, results equals my results. File, app or templates or dashboard. HTML. HTML. % extends base. HTML %. Block content %. HT class equals b4 greater than dashboard, or HTU greater than. Div class equals row greater than. Div class equals col-md-8 greater than. HT3 greater than available quizzes, or HT3 greater than. % for quiz in quizzes %. Div class equals card mb3 greater than. Div class equals card body greater than. H5 class equals card title greater than quiz. Title or H5 greater than. P class equals card text greater than quiz. Description or P greater than. AHREF equals URL4, main. Take quiz, quizid equals quiz. ITAS equals BTN success greater than take quiz or a greater than. % if quiz. Author equals current user %. AHREF equals URL4, main. Add question, quizid equals quiz. D. Class equals BTN dash outline secondary greater than add questions or a greater than. AHREF equals URL4, main. Delete quiz, Quizid equals quiz. ID, class equals btn, danger btn-sm, float end greater than delete, or a greater than, %n div % or div greater than. Div class equals card footer text muted greater than, created by quiz, dot, author dot username on quiz, timestamp, %y-% %d, or div greater than, %else %p greater than. No quizzes available yet. Be the first to create one. Or p greater than, %n4% fars, end 4% fars. Div class equals :m d4 greater than, h3 greater than my recent scores, or h3 greater than. Ul class equals list group greater than, % for result, in result, %li class equals list tree greater than, dflex, justify dash content between align items center greater than, result, quiz taken, title. Span class equals badge, bg primary rounded pill greater than result, score % or span greater than, or li greater than, %, n for %, or ul greater than, or div greater than, or div greater than, %n block %, 10. 2. Creating a quiz, the two-step flow. Creating a quiz with infinite questions on one page is complex. We will break it down. 1. Step 1. Create the quiz container, title and description. 2. Step 2. Redirect to add question page for that specific quiz. Append to app or routes. py python dot at b p dot route or quiz or new methods equals get poorest at login required def create quiz form equals quiz form if form validate on submit quiz equals quiz title equals form title data description equals form description data author equals current user ddd.pcaesar db.pc session add quiz dd.pc session commit flash quiz created. Now add some questions. Success return redirect URL form main add question quizid equals quiz dot id return render template create quiz HTML title equals new quiz form equals form at BP route or quiz or int quizid greater than or add question methods equals get post at login required def add question quizid quiz equals quiz dot query getter 404 quizid if quiz author equals current user abort 403 forbidden access if you aren't the author if request method equals post. We are using raw form data here for flexibility in adding options. Question text equals request dot form dot get question text create question question equals question text equals question text quiz equals quiz div a dot session add question div a dot session commit create options. Assume 4 options for simplicity in this tutorial. In a real app, you might use dynamic.js to add more rows. For I in range 1, 5. Option text equals request.form.get option I. Checkbox returns on if checked, else none. Is correct equals request.form.get correct I equals on. If option text option equals option text equals option text is correct equals is correct question equals question d b dot session add option d b dot session commit flash question added success return redirect URL for main add question quizid equals quiz dot id return render template add question HTML quiz equals quiz file app or templates or add question HTML. This template uses standard HTML forms rather than WT forms to allow for the custom layout of one question plus 4 options. HTML %extends base. HTML % block content H2 greater than add question 2 quiz title or H2 greater than div class equals card greater than div class equals card body greater than form method equals post greater than div class equals mdht3 greater than label class equals form method than question text or label greater than input type equals text name equals question text class equals form control required greater than or div greater than hr greater than h5 greater than options or h5 greater than p class equals text muted small greater than check the box next to the correct answer or p greater than % for I in range 1 5% div class equals input dash group m b2 greater than div class equals input dash group dash text greater than input class equals form dash check dash input mt0 type equals radio name equals correct answer value equals I required greater than or div greater than input type equals text name equals option I class equals form control placeholder equals option I required greater than div class equals input dash group dash text b greater than label class equals small m e2 greater than correct or label greater than input type equals checkbox name equals is correct I greater than or div greater than or div greater than %n for %. Div class equals dgrid mount 4 greater than button type equals submit class equals btn primary greater than save question and add another or button greater than ahref equals url4 main dashboard class equals btn outline dash secondary mount 2 greater than finish and go to dashboard or a greater than or div greater than or form greater than or div greater than or div greater than h4 class equals mount 4 greater than existing questions or h4 greater than ul class equals list group greater than % for q in quiz questions %. Li class equals list group dash item greater than q daxt or li greater than %n for % or ul greater than %n block %. 10. 3. The quiz engine, taking the quiz. This is the most critical logic. We need to 1. Render the quiz form. 2. On submit, compare the user's selected option IDs with the database's correct option IDs. 3. Calculate a score. 4. Save the result. Append to app or routes. P, Y. Python at b, p, route or quiz or int. Quizid greater than or take methods equals get. Post login required. Def take quiz quizid.quiz equals quiz.query. Getter 404 quizid if request. Method equals post score equals 0. Total questions equals quiz. Questions dot count. Iterate over all questions in the quiz. For question in quiz. Questions. The HTML form will send data with key equals question ID. The value will be the ID of the selected option. Selected option ID equals request cabre request.form get f question.myd. If selected option ID, find the option in DB. Selected option equals option query.get selected option ID. Check if it is marked correct. If selected option and selected option is correct, score plus equals 1. Calculate percentage. If total questions greater than 0, percentage equals score or total questions 100. Else, percentage equals 0. Save result. Result equals result. Score equals percentage. Student equals current answer. Quiz taken equals quiz. DB dot session. Add result. DB dot session. Commit. Flash. F quiz completed. You scored percentage. 1F%. Info. Return redirect. URL for main dashboard. Return render template. Take quiz. HTML. Quiz equals quiz. File, app, or templates, or take quiz. HTML. We loop through every question, and for each question, we loop through its options to create radio buttons. HTML. Percent extends base. HTML. Percent. Block content percent. Div class equals container greater than. H2 class equals text leaf center mday b4 greater than quiz. Title or H2 greater than. P class equals text dash center text muted greater than quiz. Description or P greater than. Form method equals POST greater than. Percent for question in quiz. Questions, percent. Div class equals card M, B4 greater than. Div class equals card header greater than. Strong greater than Q loop. Index, or strong greater than question. Text or div greater than. Div class equals card body greater than. Percent for option in question. Options percent. Div class equals form dash check greater than. Input class equals form dash check input type equals radio. Name equals question id equals option id. Value equals option. ID required greater than. Label class equals form dash check label. For equals option. ID greater than. Option dot text. Or label greater than. Or div greater than. Percent and 4%. Or div greater than. Or div greater than. Percent and 4%. Div class equals dgrid gap2 col6 mix auto mb5 greater than. Button class equals btn primary btn lg stipe equals submit greater than submit quiz, or button greater than, or div greater than, or form greater than, or div greater than, percent, n block percent. 10. 4. Deleting quizzes. A simple route to clean up the database. Append to, app or routes. Py, Python, @bp, route, or quiz or int. Quized greater than, or delete. At login required. Def, delete a quiz. Quized. Quized, quiz, equals. Query. Getter 404. Quized. If quiz, dot author, equals current user. Abort. 403. D, boss, 5, dot, session. Delete, quiz. D, 5, bossy dot, bossy dot, bossy dot, bossy, bossy dot, bossy. Sheety deed successfully. Success. Return redirect. URL for main dashboard. 11. Final deployment and execution. You now have a complete, production-ready application structure. Here is how to launch it. 11. 1. Initialize the database. We need to tell Python to create the app DB file based on the models we wrote. 1. Open your terminal. 2. Ensure your virtual environment is active. 3. Run the Python shell, bash. Python. 4. Inside Python, execute Python. from app import create app. D, B. Greater than app equals create app. Greater than with app. App context. D. Bottex create all. Greater than exit. This creates a file named app. D, B in your app folder. It contains the empty tables for user, quiz, question, option, and result. 11. 2. Run the server. Now, run the application entry point. Bash. Python run. Py. You should see output indicating the server is running on. 11. 3. Workflow for testing. 1. Register, go to, or register and create a user. Example. Admin user. 2. Log in with those credentials. 3. Click Create Quiz. Title it Python Basics. 4. Add questions. Add a question like, what is Flask? With options. Mark the correct one. Add 2 to 3 questions. 5. Finish. Click Finish and go to Dashboard. 6. Take quiz. You will see the quiz on the dashboard. Click Take Quiz. 7. Result. Submit answers and see your score percentage appear on the dashboard under My Recent Scores. 12. Conclusion and high-value next steps. You have built a fully functional MVC application. This is not a toy. It uses the same architectural patterns found in enterprise Flask applications. Why this code is high value. 1. Scalability. The factory pattern, create app, allows you to easily plug in new blueprints. Example. An API blueprint for a mobile app without rewriting existing code. 2. Security. We used WorkSoig for hashing and Flask HO36 for CSRF protection. This is compliant with basic web security standards. 3. Data integrity. The cascade equals all. Delete orphan in SQL Alchemy ensures your database never gets cluttered with zombie data. Example. Options belonging to a deleted question. How to extend this? Homework. Timer. Add a JavaScript timer in Take Quiz. HTML that auto-submits the form after X minutes. JSON API. Add a route that returns quiz data in JSON format so a React or mobile frontend could consume it. Admin panel. Create a route requiring if not current user. ISAdmin. Abort. 403. To let a super user delete any quiz. You now possess the complete source code and logic to deploy a custom quiz engine.